So you're new to Genshin, and as you're playing the game, you're finding out that all these different elements have different reactions with each other. And in this guide, we're going to talk about everything that you need to know for Electro-Charged. So because not everyone is AR60 with 36-star Abyss, I make these videos so that way hopefully anyone that watches them can understand them. So if you do learn something, please like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. And now let's get into this video on Electro-Charged. So while Genshin does do its best to explain to newer players the different reactions, it leaves a lot of stuff out. Now, of course, I do recommend you come to this domain in Mondstadt. It is right here. And here you can actually do different trials, explanations, Genshin's attempt at telling you what you need to know about elemental reactions. And they have one for a lot of the different elemental reactions. So I do recommend doing that, but this video is going to go more in depth on things that Genshin doesn't quite tell you. So Electro-Charge is going to be the reaction between Electro and Hydro. So in this party, we have Kuki, Beidou, Barbara, and Tartaglia. So we have 2 Electros and 2 Hydros. So Kuki's on the current banner, Beidou's on the previous banner. You get Barbara for free, and I just threw Tartaglia in there. But any other Hydro would do, or an Anemo, but we're going to talk about that later in the video. So we do have Kuki because she does off-field Electro. Beidou does off-field Electro with her burst. Barbara and Tartaglia are going to be more on-field Hydro dealers, because you want to keep adding Hydro into the Electro-Charge. So one thing that Genshin does not tell you is what stats each elemental reaction relies on. Now, Electro-Charged is one of the elemental reactions where its damage solely comes from the elemental mastery and level of the character triggering the reaction. So since Kuki and Beidou are going to be our off-field Electro, they are going to be triggering the Electro reactions as long as we give them the Hydro to do so. So we want elemental mastery on Kuki and Beidou. So now we're going to look at the Kuki and Beidou build that we have. Now I'm specifically using Kuki and Beidou because my Kuki is an elemental mastery build. So Kuki will be doing more damage than Beidou, but that's on purpose to show you kind of the difference between the two. So Kuki is level 90. She does have 795 elemental mastery. She does have Iron Sting, which is a fantastic free-to-play, beginner-friendly option because it gets up Elemental Mastery. I do have an Elemental Mastery artifact set on Kuki, so she will be doing more damage. And I do have her skill talent maxed or crowned, so she's going to be doing more damage than Beidou overall. Now, Beidou is 10 levels lower, a level 80. She has 257 EM, so quite a difference. She also has an Elemental Mastery Claymore. It also increases the damage against opponents affected by Pyro or Electro, so that's going to give a little bit of a boost. I do have an energy recharge set on her, so that way I can use her burst more because Beidou's Electro application comes from her burst. She does have 5 constellations, and really the only reason that I'm pointing this out is because my Beidou will have a shield. Her burst will be able to jump to more enemies than a freshly pulled Beidou. I guess that's one way of saying it. C0, it would be the correct term. And then her talents are also lower than Kuki's. So Beidou will be doing less Electro-Charge damage than Kuki. Now for Barbara, my Barbara's not built. We're not even going to look at her. And Tartaglia does have 1400 attack. He is an on-field damage dealer for Hydro application. He applies Hydro very fast. I do have one of his best artifact sets on him. I haven't leveled his talents much, but I just wanted to get that out of the way in case I'm doing damage that you may not be seeing as a beginner or as a new player or somebody that doesn't have these really good artifact sets. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to go into this domain and we're just going to show Electro-Charged talk about different rotations that you can do, what each character kind of does during this reaction, so that way you can see how you can do damage with it. Now, if you remember, Kuki's elemental mastery is much higher than Beto's, so her Electro-Charge is going to do more damage. That's why I brought these two characters, so that way you can see the difference in their damage. So first, we are going to apply Electro. And we're going to kind of get that spread around. And we're going to go to Tartaglia, and we are going to activate the Electro-Charge with his Hydra. So Kuki's off-field skill is reapplying the Electro for Tartaglia to trigger the Electro-Charge. Now, you want to have off-field Electro applicators because when you trigger Electro-Charge, it is going to do Electro damage and keep the Electro on the enemies. If we apply Hydro first and then do Electro-Charge, you see how the Hydro just goes away. So we have to continuously introduce Hydro to keep the Electro-Charge going. Now the Electro-Charge does kind of bounce around between the enemies. Once you get the first one hit with Electro-Charge, it will kind of bounce around between other enemies afflicted by Hydro. That's why you want to apply the Hydro. So Tartaglia's skill is ready to go again. We are going to use Beto's Burst this time. So Beto's Burst and Tartaglia's normal attacks are going to be causing the Electro-Charge. Now, like I said, we are wanting to apply more Hydro with Beto's off-field Electro damage to just cause these Electro-Charge reactions. So we want to introduce Hydro, let the Electro-Charge kind of jump around between the enemies, and that is how we can spread it around. Now, Tartaglia is a really good character to use Electro-Charge with because he does so much fast Hydro application. So it's really, really good to go with somebody like Tartaglia. I have Barbara in here because Barbara is a free character that you can get. You do get her for free by finishing the Anemo Archon quest. That is why we brought Barbara in here, to show that you can do it with Barbara if you have the off-field Electro characters to go with it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at everything that just happened a little slower and look at the damage difference between Kuki and Beto doing it. So at 50% speed, Kuki is going to apply Electro, and then we're going to swap to Tartaglia and get the Electro-Charge going. Now, there's a lot of numbers flying around, but one thing that I want to actually point out is that Tartaglia is applying Hydro too quickly, and Tartaglia is actually doing the Electro-Charge reactions. So the Electro-Charge reactions are not doing a lot of damage with Kuki and Tartaglia kind of grouped together. Whenever we go to Barbara to use Kuki with her, then we start seeing Kuki actually triggering the Electro-Charge. So now Kuki is going to come on the field and apply it. And you see there 8,673 damage. That is the damage that the high elemental mastery Kuki is going to be doing. When Barbara comes back on the field and is able to apply the Hydro for Kuki's skill, you're going to see a lot more of those 8,000s pop up because Kuki is able to time the skill correct to get her doing the Electro-Charge, not Barbara. And now we're going to look at Beto and Tartaglia, which is a much better combination than Kuki. Every time you do a normal attack with Beto's Burst, it's going to apply Electro. And Beto's Burst is going to be able to keep up with the normal attacks much, much better. And you're seeing about 3,285 electrocharge damage coming from Beto's burst with that much, much lower elemental mastery. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to take out Tartaglia. And we're going to introduce an Anemo character because Electrocharge does swirl. Now you get Lynette for free at AR, I believe it's AR 20. Now my Lynette is not built whatsoever. I have the black sword on her, level 1. No artifacts, nothing, C2. So this is just to show utility. Where Lynette's utility in this is going to lie is it going to be in her burst. We want her burst to absorb hydro and deal out hydro damage. We have plenty of Electro on the team. We are missing hydro. So what we're going to do is that we're going to actually apply hydro, go to Lynette, and it picked up the hydro. So now it is going to be doing hydro damage, and it's going to help make more Electrocharge reactions possible. Now you notice that Beto works a little bit better with Barbara because Beto's burst does electro damage every time you do a normal attack. Whereas Cookie's is kind of just in that field of her skill. Swirl that around, get her burst back up, pick up the hydro. It did, perfect. So now we can just do the tons and tons and tons of damage that we were doing earlier. And the same thing as before, now we're gonna go back and watch that a little bit slower and kind of look at the difference in damage, which rotation worked better. Okay, so we apply hydro, we get Lynette's burst to pick up the hydro so that way we can reapply it more and more. Doing Electro, you see a bunch of 8,000s because of Cookie's EM. When we bring Beto into it, you start seeing much more 3,000s and I think a couple 4s going through here with Beto's burst, going back to Barbara. This team actually synergized fairly well. In this instance, you would want to build Lynette with Elemental Mastery as well, because she is going to be swirling the elements together, causing more reactions herself, and it will go on her Elemental Mastery. It actually worked better, in my opinion, with Beto doing most of the Electrocharged. I was able to do more Electrocharged reactions with Beto and Barbara, not as much with Kookie and Barbara. So that's another kind of thing that you have to look at whenever you're looking at a team, is which characters are going to synergize better. Beto and Tartaglia synergize amazing for Electrocharged. Beto and Barbara were synergizing pretty well for Electrocharged. When Lynette's burst was ready, she was helping out a lot. Cookie's Electrocharge, while doing more damage, was less consistent. So that's something to kind of look at. If you have Fischl instead of Kookie, do Fischl. Fischl and Beto go together very, very well. But that is going to be it for this video. Again, if you did learn something, I would really appreciate the like, the comment, subscribe. Go check out my TikTok. I do make videos on this kind of stuff, just a lot shorter. And there is a Discord link down in the description if you're looking for a community to join, play co-op, hang out, make jokes, all that kind of fun stuff. Feel free to join, and I will see you in the next video.